Q1. Define psycholinguistics. Also discuss the scope of psycholinguistics. Psycholinguistics is the study of how human beings acquire, understand, produce, and use language. It connects psychology, the study of the human mind, with linguistics, the study of language. It helps us understand how people store words in their memory, how they form sentences, and how they understand the speech of others. The scope of psycholinguistics is very broad. It studies different areas such as language acquisition, how children learn their first language, language comprehension, how people understand spoken or written language, and language production, how we form sentences and speak. It also explores how memory, attention, and perception help in communication. Moreover, psycholinguistics studies problems like speech disorders, aphasia, and dyslexia. It helps teachers, therapists, and researchers improve language learning and treatment methods. In short, psycholinguistics explains how the mind and language work together. Q2. What are the different subdivisions in psycholinguistics? Explain language acquisition and language comprehension. Psycholinguistics has many subdivisions such as language acquisition, language comprehension, language production, speech perception, and neurolinguistics. Language acquisition is the process through which humans learn language naturally. A child learns his or her first language by listening to others and imitating them. It is a subconscious process influenced by biological and social factors. Children go through stages like babbling, one-word and two-word sentences, until they reach full language competence. Language comprehension means understanding what others say or write. It includes decoding the sounds, recognizing words, understanding grammar, and interpreting meaning. The brain processes incoming words and matches them with stored knowledge. Context, background knowledge, and memory all play an important role. Thus, comprehension allows effective communication between people. Q3. Explain the concept of language development. Language development means how humans gradually learn and improve their language skills over time. It starts from birth and continues throughout life. A baby first recognizes sounds, then starts to babble, and later forms words and sentences. In early childhood, children learn through imitation and interaction. Their vocabulary grows as they listen to parents and teachers. Grammar understanding also develops step by step. According to theorists like Piaget and Vygotsky, language development is related to cognitive growth and social interaction. In schools, language development continues through reading, writing, and speaking practice. Environmental factors such as family, education, and media influence how well a person develops language skills. In short, language development is a lifelong process shaped by biology, environment, and experience. Q4. Explain the 4 phases of Kroll's theory of writing development in children. Describe infant-directed speech and explain how it affects the acquisition of language skills. Kroll's theory explains how children develop writing abilities in 4 stages. 1. Preparatory stage. Children learn basic motor skills and understand that writing represents speech. 2. Consolidation stage. They start using spoken language patterns in writing and make short sentences. 3. Differentiation stage. They learn that written language is different from spoken language. Grammar and punctuation improve. 4. Integration stage. Writing becomes creative and flexible. Children develop their own writing style. Infant-directed speech, IDS, means the special way adults talk to babies, slow, high-pitched, and repetitive. It attracts the baby's attention and helps them recognize sounds, words, and rhythm. IDS makes learning easier by connecting emotional tone with meaning, helping infants develop language faster and more accurately. Q5. Explain the following historical theories of language acquisition: behaviorism, innateness, cognitivism, and social interaction theory. Behaviorism, B.F. Skinner. It says language is learned through imitation, repetition, and reinforcement. Children copy adults and get rewards when correct. Innateness theory, Noam Chomsky. Chomsky argued that humans are born with a language acquisition device, LAD, that helps them naturally learn grammar. It is an inborn ability. Cognitivism, John Piaget. Piaget believed that language develops as children's thinking develops. Language is part of overall cognitive growth. Social interaction theory, Vygotsky. Vygotsky said that social interaction and communication with adults help children acquire language. Learning happens in a social environment where language and thought develop together. Q6. Explain the following modern theories of language acquisition: usage-based theory, optimality theory, and native language magnet model. Usage-based theory. This theory says language learning depends on how much it is used. Repeated exposure helps children understand patterns and grammar. Optimality theory. It explains that when people speak, they select the best or optimal form of a sentence from many possible options according to language rules. Native language magnet model, NLM. It suggests that infants' brains are shaped by the sounds of their native language. Early exposure creates magnets in the brain that attract similar sounds, making it easier to learn one's first language, but harder to learn new sounds later. These modern theories highlight that learning language is both mental and experiential, depending on use, patterns, and brain development. Q7. Explain the difference between first language acquisition and second language learning. First language acquisition happens naturally in childhood without formal instruction. It is an unconscious process. Children learn by listening and imitating. Second language learning usually occurs later, often in a classroom. It is conscious and requires effort. Learners focus on grammar rules and practice. The first language is learned easily and fluently, while the second language often involves mistakes and limited fluency. Age, motivation, and environment affect success. For example, a child learns English at home naturally, but learning Arabic in school requires conscious study. Q8. Explain different teaching strategies teachers should adopt, keeping in mind different learners. Devise few classroom activities for learners having different styles. Every learner is different, so teachers should use mixed strategies. For visual learners, use pictures, charts, and videos. For auditory learners, use storytelling and discussions. Kinesthetic learners learn by doing, so role plays and games help them. Teachers can use group activities, reading circles, vocabulary games, and storytelling to keep students engaged. For shy learners, pair work and supportive feedback build confidence. Using real-life examples and technology also helps diverse learners understand language better. Q9. Define speech perception and explain the following models: trace model, motor theory model, categorical perception model, cohort model, exemplar theory, neurocomputational model, and dual stream model. Speech perception is how the brain interprets and understands spoken sounds. Trace model explains that word recognition happens through continuous comparison of incoming sounds with stored patterns. Motor theory suggests listeners understand speech by mentally simulating how they would produce the sounds. Categorical perception. People hear sounds in categories, like P versus B, not as continuous variations. Cohort model. We identify words by matching initial sounds with stored vocabulary and narrowing down choices. Exemplar theory. Listeners store detailed examples of sounds to recognize future speech. Neurocomputational model describes how the brain's neural networks process and connect speech signals. Dual stream model explains two brain pathways, one for understanding meaning and one for controlling speech sounds. Q10. Define speech production and explain its three stages and models. Speech production is the process of turning thoughts into spoken words. It has three main stages. 1. Conceptualization, planning what to say. 2. Formulation, choosing words and grammar. 3. Articulation, physically speaking the words. Utterance generator model focuses on how people plan and organize speech before speaking. Garrett model divides speech into functional, meaning-based, and positional, form-based levels. Dell's model uses a connectionist network, showing that sounds, words, and meanings are linked. Levelt model, a complete model describing speech production from idea to articulation, emphasizing planning and monitoring. Q11. Explain in detail the relationship between language, culture, and thought. Language, culture, and thought are deeply connected. Language expresses the values and traditions of a culture. Culture shapes what people talk about and how they think. For example, in English there are many words for technology, while in Arabic there are many words for family and respect. Language influences thought by giving names to experiences, while culture gives meaning to those experiences. When people learn a new language, they also learn new cultural ideas. Therefore, language is not only communication, but also a reflection of a society's worldview. Q12. Do you agree with the hypothesis that the structure of a language affects the worldview of the speaker? Explain with examples. Yes, I agree with this hypothesis, known as the linguistic relativity hypothesis, or the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. It suggests that the structure and vocabulary of a language influence how its speakers think, perceive, and understand the world around them. For example, the Eskimo languages have many different words for snow, which shows how important it is in their daily life and environment. Similarly, the Arabic language contains many words and expressions related to honor, respect, and hospitality, reflecting Arab culture and values. The theory was first introduced by Edward Sapir and Benjamin Whorf, who believed that people's worldviews are shaped by the language they speak. Although modern linguists argue that language does not completely control thought, they agree that it plays a major role in shaping how we categorize and interpret experiences. Q13. Define motivation and explain its relationship with L2 learning. Motivation is the internal drive or desire that pushes a person to achieve a goal. In second language, L2 learning, motivation is one of the most important factors that determine success. Students who are highly motivated learn faster and perform better. Integrative motivation comes from the desire to communicate and connect with another culture, while instrumental motivation comes from practical goals, such as getting a job or passing an exam. Teachers can increase motivation by using interesting activities, encouraging participation, and providing positive feedback. When learners feel supported and confident, they become more active and successful. Without motivation, language learning becomes slow and difficult. Q14. Explain the different models of L2 learning motivation presented in the following periods. 1. Social psychological period. This period focused on learners' attitudes and motivation. Gardner and Lambert identified two types of motivation: integrative, learning for cultural or social reasons, and instrumental, learning for practical benefits. 2. Cognitive situated period. This period focused on the learner's internal thoughts, self-confidence, and goals. Motivation was seen as something connected to personal beliefs and classroom environment. 3. Process-oriented period. This model viewed motivation as a continuous process. Dernier divided it into 3 stages: starting motivation, maintaining effort during learning, and sustaining motivation until goals are achieved. Each model shows that motivation is influenced by both personal factors, interest, confidence, and external factors, teachers, classroom, society. Q15. What are speech disorders and how do they affect a child's language? Speech disorders are problems that affect a person's ability to produce sounds, speak fluently, or control the tone and quality of their voice. Examples include stuttering, articulation disorder, and voice disorders. Such disorders make it hard for a child to communicate clearly. They may struggle to pronounce words correctly or express ideas smoothly. As a result, their confidence, academic performance, and social interaction are often affected. If not treated early, speech disorders can delay a child's language development. However, with the help of speech therapy, early diagnosis, and teacher support, children can improve their pronunciation, fluency, and overall communication skills. Q16. Discuss the causes and symptoms of language-based learning disabilities. Describe types of speech impairments and their effects on language development. Language-based learning disabilities, LBLD, refer to difficulties in reading, writing, spelling, or understanding spoken language. Causes. These may include genetic factors, brain injury, or delayed neurological development. Symptoms. Children with LBLD often have trouble reading, poor spelling, limited vocabulary, and difficulty following verbal instructions. Types of speech impairments. 1. Stuttering, breaks or repetitions in speech. 2. Articulation disorder, incorrect pronunciation of sounds. 3. Voice disorder, problems with pitch or volume. These impairments affect communication and reduce confidence. Early speech therapy, teacher assistance, and family support can help children overcome these difficulties and improve their language skills. Q17. What are individual differences and how do they affect language learning? Individual differences refer to the unique characteristics that make each learner different from others. These differences include age, intelligence, personality, learning style, background, and motivation. For example, younger learners acquire pronunciation easily, while older learners have stronger grammar understanding. Some students are visual learners, others auditory or kinesthetic. Personality also affects learning. Outgoing students speak more and gain fluency faster. Teachers must recognize these differences and use varied teaching methods like group discussions, visual aids, games, and projects. By understanding and respecting individual differences, teachers can help all students achieve success in language learning. Q18. Discuss cognitive, affective, and social factors that influence second language acquisition. Explain the role of intelligence, aptitude, and personality in language learning. Several factors influence how successfully a learner acquires a second language. Cognitive factors. These include memory, attention, and problem-solving skills. Intelligent learners can analyze grammar and remember vocabulary more effectively. Affective factors. These relate to emotions such as motivation, anxiety, and attitude. Learners who feel relaxed and confident learn faster, while anxiety can block learning. Social factors. Interaction with teachers, peers, and native speakers supports learning. A positive social environment encourages communication and practice. Intelligence helps in understanding language rules. Aptitude refers to natural talent for languages. And personality influences participation. Outgoing and confident learners usually perform better because they practice more. All these factors, mental, emotional, and social, work together to determine success in second language acquisition.